Hi everyone, second video as promised. So here goes. I'm gonna go straight to the point of reasons why polygamy was done. Back in the 13th, 14th century, a lot of the foundings were that women were regarded as amazing farm workers and childbearers. So a lot of you would probably say, "Oh, is that all we were?" But let me explain this to you. Slavery has been around for a very long time. So a lot of Europeans would come to the African continent, take people, and go and sell them overseas. And they mainly worked by taking men because they were stronger. And we all know the history. Plowing fields were a lot that side. So they had to make money, free labor somehow. So they used to come and take a lot of African men. So some farm owners would marry more women. That way, when they have children, they'd bear children, and then obviously they would multiply the family, and it would be a family orientated thing instead of going and taking men from other farms or men from other areas and take them from their responsibility to come and work. And something else that also was one of the reasons was the Levirate marriage. Ne? Levite.
Levirate.
Levirate. Okay. Levirate marriage. Levirate marriage. I think everyone is supposed to know that one because it was since Bible times. But to those who don't read the Bible, God's law of right and wrong actually commands a man to be a polygamist under the Levirate law. If a man dies without a son, his brother or near relatives must inherit the widow and raise up children for the deceased husband. So two well-known instances of the Levirate are found in the book of Ruth, Gospel of Mark chapter 12, and this is proposed by the Sadducees to Jesus. So it's since the Bible time. That one has always been around. So if my husband dies and I inherit everything in the family, and I've got sons or children that could a lot of children that could expand our family, what we would rather do, instead of going and taking my kids to be raised by someone else or another man, I would just marry the brother. A lot of instances, yes, some brothers wouldn't want to marry, but then you would be regarded as an outlaw because you weren't keeping to the commandments of God. So that was a heavy one as well. And also, if you in tribes, we had a lot of tribes here in Africa, so that was actually very important to unite the families. Like we know, we have a beautiful history. Because we have our different tribes that have different names. So fumaniseka uba uRhadebe noNduna noLawu noTyhopho, if uRhadebe uyathanda iintombi zakaNduna, uRhadebe would go and speak to uNduna and say, "Hey, share me your girls, I've got sons, let's create something here." Or if you'd find that uNduna have more money than uRhadebe, then hey, that's how they would unite families and bring more wealth, especially during times of war. If there's a tribe that they don't like, you know what? People have always been uniting, with their enemies, getting together. My enemy, your enemy, let's be friends. So they would combine in that form as well. So when they go out and fight in war, then boom, families get to enjoy that. Something that I think a lot of people love, that this is one of the biggest excuses of the urban areas. I said it's one of the biggest excuses, is that polygamy is about intimacy. Well, I love what Samuel Johnson said. Samuel Johnson was from up Africa. He's a historian, very educated man. He wrote a book called History of the Yorubas. He said, and he's someone who grew up in a polygamous family, he said that it was actually more about the wealth than the status. It was more about wealth status than about intimacy. Because scientifically, considering both men and women had urges, the men might not be able to satisfy all the women around. And that way, intimacy played a very low key in many polygamous relationships. So he says that, for instance, this is one thing that a lot of African men knew, and African men weren't oblivious to this. A happy wife means a happy home. So they knew if they didn't satisfy their woman, they would have an unhappy woman, an unhappy home, and the mother would not teach the children what he would want them to teach because she's not even happy. So a lot of African families actually did things in the proper manner. Some families did abuse it. And he also said that African men, to African men, the more women you take means the more money you have. It means the more land you'd inherit because those women would bear more children. So you'd inherit more land from your family. That showed that I can afford anything or anyone I want. So that was a great one as well. And he, in around about the 20th century, Nigel Barber, I think he's still alive. I'll just check that. He also has a book called The Myth Culture, Why We Need a Genuine Natural Science of Societies. He says the reason why polygamy, it still exists. It hasn't, a lot of people are still have more than one wife, but the only reason that it's not so popular is because there are more urban areas. So there's more of these areas where it's colonized, and we don't work on farms anymore. We'd rather prefer to work in offices. Okay, so it could be there may be a scarcity of adult males. So in the areas where they practice polygamy, it could be there aren't enough adult males. He said also reasons why polygamy does still exist is some may have better genes. For instance, this is something that I didn't know that was actually done. But some families would look at ezinye families, especially if you stay in one village. They would say, okay, sifumaniseke ba abantu abakatshikila, abantu bakatshikila baphila kade, abantu bapha bondlekile, and akufane kufiwe, abafane babulawe zi-natural causes. Baphila kade man, abafane babulawe zi-natural causes bese bancinci. So they live out a good lifespan. So zizinto ezazijongwa ngabantu abadala, and I appreciate that. I think I love that part a lot. They also says that men who actually got married a lot to the same woman, got married to a lot of women, were found that they are good at defend their territories. That is something else that was looked upon in villages. If I was a man, if my ilali yam uba ayifani ihlaselwe, because kaloku kukho ezinye ii-villages zazikuthanda uyoba inkomo. Livestock, stealing of livestock was also abundant in that time. So ukuba mna eyam ilali yayingafane ifumane iingxaki ezinjalo, zizinto zazijongwa ngabantu abadala ba man, asimazi ukuthi uyenza njani laa nto, kodwa siyayithanda indlela ayiphatha ngayo ifama yakhe, siyazithanda izilwanyana zakhe because azifane zibiwe, they are always in abundance. Kuhleli nje, there's always more. So they would look at what you have as well. Now this is why he said reasons why developed worlds hate polygamy. Firstly, developed worlds have an abundance of men because of health reasons. There's clinics all over, there's doctors all over, hospitals are easily accessible. So health reasons, they actually live longer in these areas. And also remember, they come from Eslalin, they come here, so they don't leave enough men that side. And he also mentioned that in developed countries, which is highly urbanized, it is difficult to raise large families because children are a huge drain on finances due to the modern education, not to mention property costs. So everything is a bit more expensive here. You take one child to school. I mean, we don't all want to take our kids to government schools. You want to take them to private schools, but you find that because of the salary, you can't really afford more than one child. And a lot of people don't homeschool. A lot of our African families did actually homeschool. I was quite excited to learn about that. They did not all take their children to schools because kama niyazazi ilali izikolo zikudelene. Nicimfamana aba omama motamkhulu bethu nomakhulu bethu babefundiswa njani ukufunda nobala. But it's things that they knew because they were homeschooled, they were taught in the home. But ngoku isike yenza ingathi yaziswa ngabamhlophe le nto. Um, so there are many great reasons. There are many great reasons, but one of the ones that I thought would be quite interesting to learn. I never knew this as well. He said other reasons colonials had to make sure polygamy doesn't increase. It was because of economical reasons, mainly for the land. There were issues of property ownership that conflicted with European colonial interests. Mandinicacisele ke. Yabona xa usezilalini chief yapha mhlawumbi he has different land, he has got a big land. So what he would do is he would take 4 wives, he would have 4 wives, so this is him, he'd have the 4 wives, and then he'd distribute his land amongst those wives. And remember, the wife with the more children keeps on accumulating bigger land because she needs bigger land because of these children. And what happened during those times is when the Europeans came in to our lands, they found that they can't only accumulate this one land from the chief. They had to get the wives to agree to give over their children's lands. This is something I loved about this, is because women don't understand how important they actually were, and they felt like they didn't have much of a say or much of a right, but you had a lot of say. So what these Europeans did is they started schools in these different areas to teach English to these different children, and they brought in the Bible, which was the angithi sonke we believe in a God. Thina abantu amaXhosa ke sibelieve ko sasibelieve ko qamatha ne uqamatha and ne. Yeah, so they came in and said, this is God. Nangu lo qamatha enithetha ngaye ulapha kule Bhayibhile. And when they wanted the land, they would say, Jonga man, God does not believe that one man should have more than one wife. It is an abomination. Have you noticed African countries love to say that? It's an abomination. So these European, they call them European colonialists, taught these people that God feels that a lot of our traditions were wrong and that he was against it, without these chiefs understanding that these people actually wanted the land and found it difficult to accumulate the land. They would, yes, get interpreters and teach interpreters English and send them back and forth to the village so that they communicate with the chief. But then they actually found getting the land was more difficult. Now you can't get it only from the chief, but you had to consult these wives because they also were part ownership of the land. So what these people did is that's when they started to take the children. They would take the children into these schools and teach them Christian. If you notice, there's private schools always started with Christian schools. So they would teach the kids the Bible in the way they want them to understand it. And that's when monogamy came in now. Whereas if Ubongani, which is umntana of one of these 4 wives, takes one wife, he would not need much land because Galogo, he only has one wife. So he doesn't need to take so many portions of the land anymore. So the rest of the land, why the Europeans would bring in more Europeans and more of the land were distributed now to the Europeans because there's more of them coming in. They come by these boats. So it's very more complex than what we actually thought. Polygamy was not stopped because it was taboo. It was against God. It was not stopped because it was a problem with intimacy. It was stopped because the colonialists wanted more of your land. And you know what you did to accommodate him? You moved from your rural areas. You moved into their urban areas. And what you did in the urban areas, you... Sorry? Yeah, you... Exactly. You became like them. You took their culture, you took their religion, you took their faith, and you did according to what they are doing. And with that, they were able to control not only your mind, they were able to now control your economical status. Which status we were very proud of, or let me say our great-great-grandfathers were very proud of, because the amount of land equated to your riches, the amount of livestock equated to your riches. But they brought in this Bible because they knew they weren't going to say to no, stop these taking many wives, and then the chiefs would just be yeah. So what they did is they used the Bible, convinced him that la Bible any believer kuye, changed your language, and then said to him, not that many wives, take only one. Now this, what happened to the African family, became smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now more women are having children out of wedlock. More women are abandoning children because galoku, there's no proper, there's no proper stable structure there anymore. And you find that in urban areas, what the Europeans did is they brought a lot of textbooks from the European countries. Very lovely what I discovered. Because in those textbooks that they would come, they would talk about the history of their countries, what they did in their countries and what worked for their countries. And we forgot, instead of Tina taking the good and putting it together with ours, we said we want, what we did is go against nalo Bible and ifunzwa yona. We coveted for their life and wanted to live their lives. Safuna ukwenza izinto ezenziwa ngabo instead of doing what we were doing, because it was working for us. But the Lord just gave us a bit more knowledge through them and said, this is how you could improve. But a lot of people didn't see it as improvement because the Europeans put one thing in their minds, that African tradition is abomination. There's a lot more that we can go over, that we will be going over in the other videos as well. But I just wanted you to understand the basics of why polygamy was there and why it actually is not thriving in urban areas. It's not thriving because things have changed. No, it's because our minds have been colonized. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like my page. Share, comment, give me comments. I would love to learn more. If you'd like to know which books I'm reading, very interested in sharing, yes, if I should share some of the links, I would love to do that with you. So ask me and let's get this thing rolling. Let's get our African selves back, guys. Yes, there's a lot of good that we can learn from urbanized and colonized minds, but we also need to remember that we're still African, and that's not going to change. And there's a reason why we're African, because we are different. A lot of people come here, Europeans come here, all foreigners come here, because we've got something special. And if we become like any other country, we're moving from why we are being African, and then why the hell are we different? Come on, think of it for yourselves. And thank you though for watching. Have a good one.